Welcome back. 412-575-2600 on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. We're talking Penguins, we're talking Steelers, we're talking college football. Of course, Penn State and Michigan going at it right now in Happy Valley. Wanted to point this out before we take a couple calls. I always like to give the FCS school some love. Robert Morris and Wagner, 21-13. Second conference win from RMU. Last week, I think they won their first one. It had been a while since they won their first conference game. And the Duquesne goes on the road. They beat Sacred Heart 20-6. So, of course, my Dukes showing up big again. Daniel Parr with a couple touchdown passes for Duquesne. We got Twitter questions. We got phone line. We got people waiting on the phone line. We will start with Joe in Greensburg. Joe, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, hey, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Yeah, somebody called a couple of nights ago, and they asked about the guy that's number 10. He's not doing a good job returning punts and kickoffs. There is a
Ryan Switzer, you're talking about?
Yeah. There was a guy that came out of Canada real fast, way faster than what Spencer was.
Deontay Spencer, you're talking about?
What happened to him? Did he get cut?
Deontay Spencer, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is with another team. I can't remember exactly which one, but he did get picked up by someone else. So, yeah, Deontay Spencer, who a lot of people liked, by the way, and thanks for the call. A lot of people liked him as a returner. I thought the difference was for him, and this is, I'm not endorsing this, I think the reasoning behind keeping Switzer was, A, Switzer was a little bit more familiar with the offense. They thought he had a role in playing in an every down role, at least getting some opportunities on the field with the offense, as opposed to just being a special teams guy. It's kind of that theory that coaches have around the league. If you can find a guy that does more than one thing, it justifies him taking up a spot on the roster. And in Deontay Spencer's case, I guess they didn't feel he was that strong of a receiver as opposed to a special teams guy. Now, the irony of all that is Ryan Switzer hasn't made much of an impact as a wide receiver either, so there's that too. So you can make the case that maybe it wasn't the best idea. Let's go to Judy in Springdale. It's my friend Judy. Judy, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hello.
Hi, Judy.
This is your weekly call. Slippery Rock and Duquesne.
I appreciate it.
Won.
Yes, I know. I appreciate it.
What do you mean you appreciate it? You tried watching it on the iPad and it kept freezing.
That has nothing to do with me appreciating it. My alma
laughing?
mater won. I can't be mad. But that is, I'm sorry that you had that problem, though. That's not good. Judy? Oh, she's gone. Well, Judy, I'm sorry your iPad wasn't working. It's not a good way to have to spend your Saturday if you want to watch your grandson play and your iPad doesn't work. Then again, in fairness, a lot of times when I'm trying to watch Duquesne on ESPN3, my computer freezes. So you're not alone there. Technology has its issues in the 21st century. Andy on Twitter just updated me and said, Deontay Spencer's with the Broncos. Thank you. I could not remember the team for the life of me. I wanted to say the Bears because they wore navy and orange. I'm like, I know that's not right, but thank you for telling me the Broncos. George also says the Brandon Tanev signing for the Penguins is a really good one. Loves the way that he draws penalties. Good pickup by Jim Rutherford. And honestly, the early returns for Brandon Tanev have been good. Brandon Tanev have been good. I think a lot of people are stuck on the fact that they signed him to such a long contract. I think that's what made so many people so skeptical, because you see a guy signing a contract that long for that much money, and people kind of got that reaction. Oh no, it's Jack Johnson all over again. And I don't think this is the same situation. First of all, I think that Tanev is a lot more valuable. He goes back to being the kind of guy that this team had a couple years back when they won back-to-back Stanley Cups, when you had the kind of speed and defensive tenacity, making plays in front of the net, being able to help control possession, and like you mentioned, George, drawing penalties. Those are all things that come into play, and they're all equally important. So, yeah, bringing in Brandon Tanev, I thought, was pretty good. I always had this theory from the moment they signed him, just based on some of the moves they made in the offseason. I felt like they were trying to find guys that fit more of what Mike Sullivan wanted to do with this lineup and what he's been doing all along. Now, a lot of people were criticizing the Penguins, myself included, that when they had put together this blueprint that worked, they were using speed, they were using skill to beat teams, and they won back-to-back championships with it. And you saw the rest of the league start to adjust with that. Everybody else started showing speed too. Everybody else started to emphasize speed and skill also. And then you saw that shift start to take place. I think Washington, who had a lot of skill already, but they showed some speed, but they needed to balance things out. Washington always had skill. They always had speed, but they needed more of a balanced approach. They became a more defensively sound team, and that made them a lot stronger. So it was a little bit of a different situation for Washington. They were a team that always had those things, just maybe didn't have strong enough defense. And then there's a team like St. Louis where it was kind of a boring kind of style. They didn't really blow you off the score sheet. They weren't really that particularly fast or super skilled. They were just really stout defensively and didn't make a lot of mistakes. It's not like the Devil's Trap days from maybe 15, 20 years ago, but along the same lines of being responsible defensively, being responsible with the puck, not making a lot of stupid decisions, and being able to win games in a smart way, in a more responsible way. I thought that paid off for St. Louis. Actually, Paul Zeiss thought that with me last night. So it's kind of a changing dynamic. But from the Penguins standpoint, I think a lot of people were surprised that they were playing this style of hockey and then went away from it. And Jim Rutherford wanted to put together a tougher group that didn't get pushed around as easily. So Brandon Tanev was a guy that kind of checked off a couple more boxes that maybe they hadn't checked off in recent years. He's a little bit of a tougher guy, but does play that offensive game, does play with a lot of speed, also has a lot of good offensive possession ability, and is strong defensively as well. So that's one of those things that I guess he was trying to get back to eventually, because when you try to find a guy that's strong offensively and can play a good defensive game and he's a tough guy and maybe he can drop the gloves a bit, those guys are hard to find. They're not all over the league. Usually they're divided into one or two, maybe even three different categories. So when you find a guy like Tanev that checks off a couple more boxes maybe than usual, that's something that you look at and you take advantage of. We got a question on Twitter. Did you see Arizona State get stomped to Yeah, I saw that. I saw it. It's interesting. I was talking about a couple games earlier today as far as Wisconsin getting knocked off by Illinois, and we saw South Carolina. Last week, they beat Georgia. So we are seeing some teams in the upper parts of the top 25 have some hard times. But in fairness, Arizona State faced a really good Utah team, and Utah has a pretty talented defense. They can actually run the ball pretty well, too. So I'm not really surprised that Arizona State struggles with Utah because Utah is a team I thought that a lot of people were not overlooking, but were maybe better than they were getting credit for. So I'm not surprised Utah was able to do what they did today. Let's go to Pete in Squirrel Hill. Pete, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh, how are you tonight?
Good, how you doing?
Hey, Josh, I'm always interested in everything about, like, when people refer to, like, the NHL as a copycat league. The Montreal Canadiens built two dynasties, the late 50s and the late 70s, with the speed game, henceforth the name the Flying Frenchman. The Edmonton Oilers built the greatest offensive machine in the history of the game when they averaged just under 6 goals a game.
Indeed.
Their mid and late 80s dynasty, they did that with speed. So, it's not like speed has been invented with hockey, but a lot of people, want to lead other people to believe that the speed game now is something new to the table. I just want to know what you think about that.
I didn't say it was new, but I see where you're going with this. Thank you for the call. I think the thing is, when you saw the mid-'90s going into the 2000s, when more and more teams started playing the trap, it kind of stifled offense. It kind of made it not as useful or not as helpful if you had a lot of speed and skill. So when you saw those years, especially when you saw New Jersey just almost literally choking teams out, not with their hands, but just using that trap to just completely choke other offenses down in the different choke points on the ice and keep them from being able to break out. That made it more difficult. So when you started to see the rules kind of loosen up a bit, then it started to open up some conversations of, okay, how can you take advantage of it now? So it did swing back around to the speed game. But you're right. It wasn't like speed was just a new invention. You're absolutely right. You can make the same case about football, because there were some people telling you football is becoming a speed game, and I'll make the case that Al Davis felt that way in the 70s, that he thought speed was one of the more important assets. That's why they had so much of a go down the field, go long offense. They wanted to stretch teams vertically and push them down the field and use speed to do that. So it's not like we're seeing new inventions here. What's the old saying? There's nothing new under the sun. So I don't think it's necessarily just more cyclical. And if you've noticed it, pretty much every sport is cyclical. I'm pretty much expecting it to come to a point where we're going to see baseball cycle back around, where it's going to be pitchers being a little bit more dominant, because we're seeing so many pitchers that can throw mid to high 90s and triple digits, and so many pitchers using breaking pitches and finding more ways to set up their repertoire. We'll get to the point where we're probably seeing more batters, not being able to make hard contact over the next couple of years. I think that's a trend that may come back, and it's not as much as maybe the dead ball era. I don't think we'll get there, but I think you will start to see some things kind of swing around with baseball. Football, I don't think we've gotten away from what we're seeing offenses do yet. I still think we're seeing the heavy passing contingent, especially in college football. I think it's starting to break its way into pro football a little bit more, because you're having more younger offensive coordinators, guys like Cliff Kingsbury, who's a head coach now, who played under Mike Leach, studied that air raid offense, and that one is a very heavy passing offense as well. It's designed to score a bunch of points. So you do see some trends going here and there. We got to take a break. We'll have some more phone calls and tweets when we come back. Stick around.